So what was that exercise all about? What was it all about? It's so important in this city that we live in neighboring communities, that we know everyone by name, that we know each other by name. It doesn't feel good to be called by your name, called by your first name, not called out of your name, but called by your name, so we can develop and build relationships in this great community. It gives me great pleasure and great honor to introduce a person that each of you know by a very familiar name, but I've made a rule that I'll never call him that name in public. So my brothers and sisters, would you please receive the mayor of the city of Mount Vernon, the Honorable Richard Thomas.
Thank you. And, I first got to give honor and glory to God, but also we have to give honor and thanks to Grace Baptist Church, Reverend Dr. Franklin Richardson, for allowing us to use this space. And tonight we gather here because we definitely have a call to action, and a call to action to kind of address violence, not just in our community, but also that's happening around us. But before I start presenting my remarks, I do want to point out that we have Councilmember Edwards. Please stand. We have Councilmember Roberto Puzo. Please stand. Thank you for joining us. And we also have our Commissioner of Public Safety, Bob Kelly. We have our Deputy Police Commissioner, Ron Fatigate. We have our Commissioner, Sean Patterson Howard, to my right, to the left. Our Commissioner of Recreation, Reverend Darren Morton. And the Executive Director of Youth Bureau, Damia Harris, who is here. And I believe I saw Diane in Athens. There you go. Hi, Diane. So, from the Recreation Department. So, we're here, and after I provide a brief overview, you're going to hear some of the plans that we have put in place and designed to really attack the symptoms of violence in our community. And you're going to hear from Commissioner Morton. You're going to hear from Executive Director Damia Harris. You're going to hear a little bit from Sean Howard, our Planning Commissioner. But I just want everybody to think about violence very similar to the common cold. We know that it exists, but it's kind of hard to find an exact remedy for it. If you talk to a grandparent, they'll tell you try some Pepsi Cola with cod oil. I mean, hey, that's what my grandmother told me. Cod oil wasn't that good. But if you go to CVS or another drugstore, you'll try a different type of remedies. It just depends on what the symptoms are. So what we've done is we've looked at our community and we said, look, we have to coordinate. We know that we have a lot of options, we have a lot of promise, we have a lot of opportunity, but we have to coordinate. So what we've done is, going back as far as December, we started looking at the calendar for the entire year, and we put together basically a calendar of events that aims to bridge a network of disconnects. And the objective is to provide our young people with options to choose alternatives to violence. And this policy approach aims to include everybody. It includes faith-based community, include the city government, include the police department, include the fire department, include nonprofits, include all sorts of stakeholders to make sure we all have a voice and a responsibility in bridging these disconnects. And what happens is, for example, if we know that there's an event going on, a block party per se, on Portugal Place by Mount Vernon East train station, we should know that we can direct people there for good quality fun. Or if there's a block party happening on Bond Street, we should be able to direct people there to have good quality fun. And some of the goals and objectives are very basic as well, such as putting pools in parks in the summertime, such as bringing back bologna sandwiches so kids can eat some nutritional meals in the park. And I remember Mount Vernon when we had these basics, quality of life aspects, where our kids could go to the park and feel safe and have fun and to be affordable. This time it's going to be fresh, because we're going to add a combination of nuances, including video game trucks, ice cream trucks, and we're looking at creating a basic routine of just fun things to do for all ages up to 24. So we're looking at a holistic approach to make sure that we're engaging one another, the calendar is available, and the objective is to build together. And I think that's where having everyone here tonight, everybody that's here tonight is a stakeholder that believes in safety, that believes in quality of life, but more importantly, you believe in Mount Vernon. And we don't want to have another incident where we have an unfortunate, tragic homicide on our streets because we weren't able to bridge a disconnect. So you can expect to see me walking the streets every weekend, sometimes with my family, sometimes with some of my staff, just making sure we're out there in frequency and repetition. Today I did Dunkin' Donuts in the rain, which is fun. But the point is, you're going to see us out there. You see Bob Kelly walking around a lot, which is great. And this is what we need. And I can tell you right now, I do want to just point out and thank publicly Brother Arthur Muhammad. Please stand, Brother Arthur Muhammad. Because when the Easter homicide happened, and I looked at many of the kids that were there, and I call them kids because they're between the ages of 16 and 20. They were most of his students, and years ago when I was in the governor's office, he brought me in to speak to them at the middle school. And I remember many of their faces, and I said, I need Brother Muhammad because he has a definitive relationship with them, and he understands the pain that they're feeling, and it was real pain. And I attribute a lot of the silence per se, and the lack of retaliation. It appears so far in Mount Vernon at least, because of his presence at night, talking to those young people. And myself and Pastor Gwen Wilson, we were all there that evening, and we made it clear that we feel their pain, we understand that it's a challenge, and it's nothing but community love, trying to bring people back together. And I know it's easier said than done, but I just want to say thank you for dropping everything you did to join us that night and spend hours out there with us. So thank you, Brother Muhammad. But before I turn it over to my some of my administration, I do want to point out that I know Congressman Engel is on his way, and I want to say thank you to him in advance, because earlier today we had a call at the White House, and they committed to coming to our next meeting because of a lot of the legwork and outreach that he's been doing with us to make sure that at the highest level of government, folks are paying attention to what's going on the ground, and not forgetting their obligation to make sure that we make sure we put in place this vision of a 21st century police model, but also making sure that President Obama's legacy is matched in terms of him passing the baton to a community that's looking to run further forward. So I just want to say thank you to Congressman Engel before he gets here to provide some remarks. But we were joined by our host for today, Reverend Richardson. Reverend Richardson. If you would like to say anything, Reverend Richardson, we'll welcome you. This is your house. Okay, thank you. But I would like to invite up Thamia Harris first, who's going to talk about summer employment, youth jobs. And I think that's a critical ingredient to making sure that we have safety on our streets this summer. Thamia?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I wish I would have been asked to name, because I think I could top Ms. Crum. I think I could name at least 25 people in the room. There are so many opportunities that we have in Mount Vernon, and I appreciate the mayor for allowing the Youth Bureau to spend some time this evening to address what we do have in the community, because often we talk about the gaps, often we talk about what we do not have. So I'm going to present to you some of the things we do have. Every year the Youth Bureau has had a long legacy of providing youth employment to young people, and it does not come without a challenge. We know that there are thousands of young people who are willing and interested in working. However, we don't have the funding to provide youth employment to all young people. But we do have a very extensive program. We've committed to hire no less than 200 young people, and that is from the ages of 14 to 24. Provide ongoing training and stipend opportunities. So for instance, when we notice that there's a gap between camp age, which is about 12 years old, and youth employment age, which is about 14 years old, we have created gap opportunities which would allow 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds that otherwise would not have an opportunity to work to earn a stipend. So there's opportunities for them. So we estimate about 25 to 30 different positions for them. We also have various academies which teach our young people the occupational skills that they need. So it may not be presented as a summer job, but they're still earning money and they still learn. So we serve about 2,000 young people during the summer. Throughout the year, the city provides opportunities to at least 5,000 young people and families. So I wanted to start there because, again, when we're informed and we're educated about the opportunities that exist, we can speak a little bit more intelligently when we go out and say what we do or do not have in this community, because this community is very vibrant. Although we've had some setbacks and we know we have challenges with crime, we still have opportunities. For instance, last week, Dave Clark, Commissioner Kelly, we partnered with the Mount Vernon Police Department to ensure that our young people went through youth police communication training. And this is offered every year. And the mayor has committed to expanding resources for our Step Up program. Mr. Wayne Woodbury, who I'm not sure is here yet, oversees this project. And this program is really important because it fosters communication. It establishes the relationships between the police and the young people so that they understand that law enforcement is not the enemy. In fact, it's a valuable resource. So I could go on. I mean, we have Ms. Brown here who represents over 100 girls in our GEM program. We have many other opportunities. I won't hog the mic, but we do have flyers here, and we do have summer camps and summer opportunities. So for the community to know more about what we offer, you can contact us. I won't be there because you can see I'm huffing and puffing. I'm about 3 weeks away from delivering. So I'm up here, I'm with you guys tonight because I am concerned, I do care, but I want you all to know what is available through the City of Mount Vernon's Youth Bureau. Thank you.
So next up, we're going to call up Reverend Commissioner Morton, and he's going to talk about some of the activities and options that I think are going to be a blast from the past, but really put us, put a lot of hope in the future. So make a big splash, Commissioner Morton.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. So Davia talked a lot about the actual youth employment and also youth enrichment. I'm going to talk to you about the gamut of programs and services that will allow for not only children and teens, but also families to kind of really get connected and get involved over the summer so that we can keep our children busy, we can keep them fit, we can keep them involved. So if you remember a few years ago, we went back to an old school thing. Remember the days when we had playground supervisors? And so we went back to having actual, what we call the park activation program. Putting activities in the playgrounds for our young people, allowing for us to be able to employ teenagers, older teenagers, in order to help younger children who may not go off to camp to be a part of that. So we're going to do that. We're going to expand that program to many more parks around the city so that communities can now come and get engaged and parents can know where their children really are. We're also looking at also getting our children involved in our camps. Our camps, again, we will continue to do that. We actually have approximately about 160 children that participate in our camps. And so our camps are going to be active this year as well. When we look at things like also engaging in athletic activities, we're going to also have open gyms. We're working with the school system. We've already gotten some clearance for those things. We're also going to be doing some midnight athletic tournaments, scrimmages, using the Sports Underdome, and also midnight ice skating at the ice hutch. And so that's going to be a number of activities also. When we begin to look at also our Summer Olympics, remember in the past we used to have these Summer Olympics. We're going to start to get communities to start to really compete against each other, incorporating our community associations, partnering with them But the mayor also talked about these pools in the playgrounds. We've already identified at least 3 places in which we can build pools. How many of you remember the old pool that used to be on 9th Avenue between 2nd and 3rd? Well, we're going back to that kind of idea, and allowing to have pools there, also having sprinkler systems, sliding water for folks to get involved and get engaged. In doing all of this and adding these programs, what we're going to be looking for is teenagers who are between the ages of 17 and 21 to be employed, providing employment opportunities for them. And so these are opportunities for our children, for our teens, for our seniors, for our adults to get engaged with one another. Look over there, you'll see the brochures that outline our programs in detail, and we know that through the synergy between the Youth Bureau and the Recreation Department and our community partners, churches, we'll be able to provide a plethora of activities this summer.
Now, I know that we were joined by quite a few people. I see the family of Jovell Stewart here with us. You know, I just want to acknowledge you're here, and we were there, and we're not going to go nowhere. We hope that, you know, in this time of tragedy, you know that Mount Vernon is rallying behind you, and we mourn with you. And, you know, if we had it our way, it would never happen, but just know that we're doing everything we can to make sure that it doesn't happen again by making sure we're playing more offense on these issues. And I understand that that pain is real and it hurts. And you heard and saw myself and Brother Arthur Muhammad out there, and we're going to continue to stay out there. And I'd love to talk with you some more, you know, after this, but I just want to acknowledge that you're here. And thank you, everybody else. And just so everybody knows, Jovell was not a member of a gang. He was a good kid in the wrong place, the wrong time, and, you know, he's getting his life together, and it's just a real shame that it happened. So I just want to make sure you know that, you know, my heart goes out to you, and all I can tell you is that we look forward to being, you know, part of a family with you. And also join with us all the Nolans, Mike Nolan and his wife. His son was tragically taken, many of you may have heard, in Yonkers at the Taco Bell, and I just want to acknowledge that you're here, and I thank you for being here with us as well. And this is the impact. I mean, we're all family at the end of the day, and there's no need for our families to tolerate these type of heinous acts in our community. So I just want to make sure you know that this is part of the reason why we wanted to call this meeting tonight, to make it clear that we have an action plan that is offering options to violence. We're asking everyone that has an interest in seeing Mount Vernon's quality of life improve. It's not just Mount Vernon, it's New Rochelle, Yonkers, the Bronx. We have some responsibility to better coordinate. And I just want to make sure you know that we are putting our best effort forward to rally the resources all the way up to the White House on down, so you know that we're bridging these disconnects to create job opportunities and fun. Because at the end of the day, idle hands are our devil playground, and that's one of the things we want to disrupt. But I want to call up, I don't know, Sean Howard, if you wanted to add anything before we got to the next chapter in our fire starter session, where we'll hear from our council members, our congressmen, and a few others that have agreed to help start the second chapter of the discussion of adding to the conversation to enhance our value proposition. I know Barry is one of them. So Sean?
Good evening, everyone. As the mayor stated, violence in a community is like a cold. It's not just one thing that you can chop its head off, because it has a lot of arms. And so we're here understanding that one meeting and one community forum is not going to solve the issue of violence in our community, but what we understand is that we have to deal with the symptoms. We have to work on strengthening our families. We have to work on strengthening our education system. We have to increase and strengthen the opportunities that youth have in this community to involve themselves in positive youth development activities. And it's not saying that we don't have them, but what I always hear from people in the community, and it's oftentimes a cop-out, is, well, we didn't know about it. but we know where to go buy what we like. So we have to work with people to get the message out more, find different ways of engaging them and connecting them to what we have, but then also kind of sewing it all together so that we have a seamless continuum of services that really, really work positively for the community. Community safety, people say, well, you're the commissioner of planning. Why does this mean something to you? Because my job is the economic development of Mount Vernon. And it's very difficult to bring in investors and bring people in who want to open businesses and build apartment buildings and things of that nature for a community that they feel is unsafe. And so, A, I live here. B, I live in a snug target zone, which means that's the most violent part of our community. C, I'm a lifelong resident of Mount Vernon. And D, as our community is safer, as our schools are stronger, as our recreational and youth services continue to increase and thrive and grow, then we're all able to offer a better quality of life. And when you're able to offer safety and an overall quality of life, that's when the economic development becomes much easier. We become the pretty girl in the room that everyone wants to date as opposed to the option. And so I want to make sure that Mount Vernon is a primary place where people want to invest and people want to come and live, and where they want to live, work, play, and pray. That's my mantra. Live, work. We want to make Mount Vernon a place where people want to live, work, play, and pray. We have a strong faith-based community here. We want to engage them because we need them to help us solve a lot of the problems and challenges that we have. This is not just a government response, but it's going to be a multi-sector and a cross-sector response in order for us to solve some of our challenges and really reveal the strengths and the positive things that we have as a community to offer. And so, you know, I look for this to be a great discussion, not just us speaking to you, but hearing your ideas, getting you engaged, finding new mentors, finding people who are gonna volunteer and help us do the different things that money just can't pay for. Money does not answer everything, but a community that has a made-up mind, a community that decides that we're not looking for Superman to come from the outside and strengthen our community, but we have enough tools, resources, education, and wisdom in this room to make our community great. Greater than what it is. I'm not saying we're not a great community, but all of us have a list of 10 things that we would like to see better and stronger in our community. And so let's really create that, and let's work together to uplift Mount Vernon, to strengthen our young people, and to provide a better quality of life in our community.
Thank you, Sarah. I don't believe that our congressman has arrived yet, but I don't believe our congressman has arrived yet, so in his absence, I'd like to bring up our council members, Councilman Edwards and Councilwoman Apuzzo, if you'd like to provide some feedback to the community. And then after that, we'll hear from Minister Smalls.
To this wonderful community, I didn't think that there would be so many people this evening because of the weather. I want to thank the mayor for bringing this to the forefront, to Reverend Richardson for giving us this opportunity to have this event this evening. You know, I've been the executive director of the Soup Kitchen for 23 years now, and what I have found working with young people, because we get a lot of young men and women between the ages of 13 to 20 that are on probation. What I have found working with them shows me what we need in this community. And it's to give the young people a sense of stability. And sometimes we have young people that come into the Soup Kitchen and they have 50 hours. They have 100 hours, and they come in with an attitude. But what I learned was that when they come in and they realize that there are people that are there for them and care for them, and they're not afraid to tell them, young man, you are not coming back into this church with your pants down, because crack kills, and I don't want to see yours. So it might take a couple of times that they're coming back, but after a while, they have an understanding that we care about them, that we're there to help them, that we're there to help them grow. And so many times from what I have seen is that they'll come back and they'll say, thank you. I really didn't like you in the beginning, and that's all well and good with me. I wasn't really there to be liked. I was there for them to learn that we care. And we're going to do everything in our power to show our youth that we do care about them. So tonight, as we move forward, on behalf of the City Council, that I personally, whatever is asked of me, will join in to do whatever it is that I can to help in this effort to end violence of any sort, not just gun violence, but violence of any kind. And thank you once again, Mayor, for bringing this to the forefront, and to all of the panelists, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening, family. Mayor, I'd like to thank you also for allowing us to say a few words, but I'm somewhat ambivalent to this night because I've been here many, many times at this church where Dr. Richardson has called meetings over the years, and it's a reminder that things continue to happen. But I think Commissioner Howard said it best. If we, the people, don't get involved, it will not change. Until we, the people in the communities this affects the most, say we will no longer tolerate the no snitch rule in our community, it will not stop. You know, some of us know, or you know someone who knows who's the perpetrator of all of what's happening in our communities. Because it's very, very few of us that commit these crimes, all right? There's a very few, it's a small segment of the population that this causes, all right? I feel very bad for those who are suffering the most, who have the most recent losses in the community. The reason why Mr. Clark has a frown look on his face, because years ago he went through the same thing. And I'm sure he feels it each and every day. Okay? So I understand why he has that look on his face, because if I lost my son, I would not be smiling either. Okay? But I'm the chairman of Public Safety and Codes, and I've been working along with the police department. We need volunteers to help us put a community civil complaint review board together. We need volunteers to sit on the ethics committee. We need volunteers to be involved in every aspect of how this city runs. If you don't have an association in your building, if you don't have an association on your block, if you don't have an association in your church that you are not involved in, then you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You cannot put all this on government, because now people are tired of government, but then they come to government when they need some relief. All right? You are the government. You're the government of yourselves. So I ask you to help us. I've been around a long, long time, all right? And I know the mayor doesn't want to start his administration off because it was quiet for a minute. But the mayor doesn't want to have to go through this each and every day and have to console people. He doesn't want to do that. Neither do we as a council, all right? But we don't have all the answers, and hopefully some of the answers will come out here tonight. I would say continue to pray for us. I work in a place called Rwanda, East Africa, where they killed 1 million of each other, okay, in 100 days. We do it over a long period of time. It doesn't happen in 100 days. It might happen in 10 years, but we still kill the same amount of people. God bless you. Continue to strengthen. Continue to be strong.
So, you know, I'd like to call up Minister Smalls from Grace, just to say a few words on behalf of Grace. We are in your house, so thank you so much for hosting us. But in all seriousness, this wouldn't be possible without you. So thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank everyone for showing up here. I'm actually very happy and touched to see that in this rainy, cold weather that people came out. I love what I'm hearing tonight in terms of this analogy of a code, this concept that it is just not the government's responsibility. Citizenship is very important. and you have a lot of power and responsibility in your hand. You also have the opportunity to think of yourselves and our community with a sense of love and pride. As a lifelong Mount Vernonite, one of the things that I'm often sad about is the low self-esteem we have as a community. And a good way to snatch away your sense of self-esteem is when there's violence, when someone loses their life tragically. It seems to snatch away all hope and joy out of masses amounts of people. But there is an antidote for that. There's absolutely an antidote of that, and you are the antidote. And coming out here tonight to listen, to have ideas, to express yourself is the beginning of that process to inoculate Mount Vernon, so that this wonderful, beautiful community will have the ability to continue to stand up, to offer opportunities for our children, to offer hope to ourselves. This is the beginning. This is not the end. And I'm so happy and so proud that you stood up and came out. And don't let this end. Like it was said before, this forum is not just the solve. Be active. Go to the city council meetings. Go to your board meetings. Find out what's going on, not just what the rumors are. Get the facts. Vote for your school board members. Vote for your city council. Know what's going on and be informed, and have, as was said before, a made-up mind that you love, care, and cherish this city, and that you are willing to do whatever it is to make it even better. We welcome you, we thank you, and Grace Baptist Church hopes to continue to be a partner with the city of Mount Vernon, because for 127 years this church has been here. That's a long time. And lots of good things have come out of this city. Lots of amazing, this whole panel right here is Mount Vernon Public School System for you. And these are our leaders. So continue to fight the good fight and continue to have hope in your heart. And let's move forward. Thank you, Mayor.
I saw that Cynthia Miller from Congressman Ingles' office has joined us. Cynthia, thank you for being with us. I know the congressman is on his way, but you know, when he gets here, we'll definitely receive him. I do want to, unless you want to provide some remarks before he gets here.
No, I'll let him.
All right, no problem, because he has the White House message, so we'll let him deliver that. I did see Reverend Mulrain come in. Reverend Mulrain, thanks for being here with us tonight. Brother Barry Crumbly is someone that has long professed interest in community gardening. And I just want to kick off our fire starter chat before we bring up Detective Clark and Sergeant Carpenter and our police leadership. I want to invite Brother Crumbly up to talk briefly about some of the plans. Because again, this is an implementation plan. This is not the discussion about the problem. This is about what we're doing to offer options. This is the discussion about the platform of various solutions that everybody can pick and choose what they want to be involved with. So what you're going to hear from now is Brother Barry Crumbly, who we've been talking about at length, about community gardening and what we're doing to create access to water so the community can garden. Brother?
This is going to be real quick. We're going to 30 minutes. I'm going to do this in 30 seconds. All right, seriously. We're going to grow food in Mount Vernon.
That's it.
We're going to do it right there. You look at my face, you know the name. We're going to grow food in Mount Vernon.
And we're going to be working on various, updates and before I got here, I had a meeting with the water department, and they're going to work first with creating access on the corner of 4th Street and Columbus at the community garden by Graham School that Elias Goodsite has been advocating for a good time. And I saw him walk in. I don't know. There you go. So Mr. Goodsite, we're going to create the access to water, so you don't have to worry about carrying buckets of water. I'll help you carry the buckets, but I'm telling you, but I think it's easier if we just create the tap for you. So expect that to happen soon.
That was
20 years waiting for that. It took you a month.
Hey, listen, don't give credit to me completely, because Senator Ruth Hassel Thompson said I better do it. So I said, okay.
That's how it's worked out.
You got it. But I do want to say that's an important part of making sure we show our growth. And it's not just that garden. I'm also looking at plazas like Stuyvesant Plaza and other neighborhoods that have these promenades, so we can create a beautiful look to our community. We don't want, weeds growing and people constantly complaining about it. Doesn't look the look that we want it to have. So we're going to create access to water. And if you recall, the Bible said I thirst, and that's kind of one of the reasons why, one of the most primary needs we must meet. But I do want to acknowledge and also recognize Snug for being here. Snug, if you guys stand up. Snug, everybody knows who Snug is. They are street warriors. They're not connected to the city of Mount Vernon. They're not connected to any real government entity. They're just a good group of people that believe in safety. They understand the challenges that many of now most people may call them at-risk youth. We call them youth of promise, youth of potential. And that's something that is a new nomenclature that's being pushed by President Obama, and we have immediately adopted it and put it into practice. But they were there that night as well with us when we went and extended our deepest condolences to the Stewart family. But they are street warriors, and they're out there day and night, and they're also probably a large part of the reason why we have a lot of safety, or the streets were somewhat no retaliation happened so far from what we can see. But I just want to acknowledge the hard work that you guys do, and it's much appreciated. Now, I believe I see is not yet okay. All right, this drum beat is coming, but I do want to before we bring up our Congress member and turn it over to questions. I just want to ask, Principal Doggett, who's like me, grew up in the Mount Vernon City School District, grew up at Memorial Field. And just so you know, Memorial Field, we'll talk about that probably next week. We do something. Just know that it's on our agenda. But I want to bring up Principal Doggett just to provide some feedback from just his view now, being a community leader, inspiring a lot of our young people to do good in the community. So, Principal Doggett, if you can provide some feedback.
Well, good evening, everyone. Listening to this today, I was reflecting on how I grew up and how I got here. I'm a principal at Rebecca Turner Elementary School here in Mount Vernon, New York. I was born and raised in Mount Vernon, New York. And I want to talk about how I got there. Reflecting upon this meeting, I realized the community got me here. I was raised by two parents. I had a strong family, but also when I grew up, we had recreation activities. We had an on-site director at each park. All the parks were open. The YMCAs were open. We had built relationships with the police officers. They were in our school on a daily basis. We knew them by first names. There were a lot of proactive measures that helped me get to where I'm at today. I also have an education, came back, wanted to give back to Mount Vernon to let our children of promise know that they can be somebody when they grow up. I'm glad to see that this plan that the mayor is rolling out is bringing some of those things back to our community, because when we don't, as a principal, now I'm speaking as a principal, when we have a community that is violent and disruptive, guess where it ends up? In school. So now schools are now focusing on safety more than academics. And that is a burden, and it's also a tax burden as well, because now you're paying for more security, more intervention as for violence prevention as opposed to academics. So on the school level, we are doing what we can with programs, intervening, especially on the elementary level. We have a PBIS program where we're teaching students how to behave appropriately. We're doing a lot of intervention and prevention. We want to catch them while they're early, build relations with them to prepare them for high school, so this way they are not violent when they get out. But what I would like to say, we don't have a lack of community here in Mount Vernon. We have a lack of a coordinated community. And these efforts that Mayor Thomas is bringing together is helping coordinate all these activities, so they're not working in silos and we're working together. So whatever you need from the schools, I'm in.
And much of this discussion is about our young people, and we do have 2 young leaders, achievers from Thornton High School, and we're talking about you too. Come on. So we're going, instead of having the next discussion about, I want to have a discussion with and invite our 2 achievers and leaders from Thornton High School to come up and provide some feedback to the community about their perspective of what we're doing, coordinate, and make our own safe. Let's go. Where are you going to come? Where are you going next?
Hi, my name is Davida Mohendeo. I am the president of National Honor Society over at Thornton High School. I'm most likely going to end up at Penn State University. Thank you. Oh, and I want to be a pediatric neurologist when I grow up.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Saxby. Most likely I'm sorry, I'm so nervous. This makes me nervous. But okay, I'm gonna start over. You know, I have to start over. Okay. Hi, my name is Ruth Saxby. I go to Thornton High School and I'm a senior and also senior president of the senior class. Most likely I plan to go to UHeart in Connecticut and study pre-med to become an OBGYN.
So what's the solution for some of the stuff? What's the feedback on some of the plans? We've got 2 doctors in the house. Talk to us about the prescription.
Well, I know that, personally for us, we're not really we're not about that life, like for real. Like, so we can't really, how do I put this? We can't really justify, I guess, any of the wrong that happens and the violence that happens. However, we feel like there's so many different opportunities here in Mount Vernon that people just don't know about, which I don't see why they don't know about, because there are a lot of notifications out there. We get mail at home, we get emails at school, we have social media about even if you don't have Mount Vernon websites or stuff on your social media, they have like a category of people you may know. And so many different things that you get notified on from social media. And then also, with us, we're also in many different groups and clubs at Thornton High School. So there's so many different things. Like we have a poetry club, we have language honor society clubs, we have so many different things and we do a lot of community service like the soup kitchen. So there's something for everyone.
And I kind of want to piggyback on what Principal Doggett said. At Thornton High School, we really have it's like a family, and I feel like the school systems, well, the schools that we both attended, have really had that family mentality and have oriented towards being a family and staying away from the violence. Like, we've had many programs where we've had like Parents Against Teen Violence, and Principal Doggett came in to speak. Councilman Edwards came in to speak to us about it, and I think it does bring a lot of awareness, because even even being an ambassador and sitting in while they speak, it opens my eyes even though I'm away from the violence, and it helps me realize that violence is a thing and it does happen, even though we look more on we're more optimistic and we stay on the brighter side of things, and it brings a realization to us that we as a community, we do have to stop this. And again, not just gun violence, but violence mentally and verbally and physically. It's an issue and we have to speak on it, and the youth does have to talk about it. So I can say that we're both very blessed to be in the schools that we did go through, and Thornton High School as well, because of the family that we created, the extended family that we created, and the mentality that they have to stay away from violence and to just be united as one.
Thank you, young ladies. We got 2 doctors in the house, and you know, I know if you're a member of Grace, you may be eligible for a scholarship. So, but I do want to invite Sergeant Carpenter and Detective Clark up, and our police leadership to join us to talk briefly about some of the things that they've been doing to make sure we get better connected in the community. I do also want to point out and single out that we have Benjamin Bridges and his wife Chandra here from Parents Against Teen Violence. Stand up, guys. Over 100 families they represent, from those that lost loved ones over the years. So I just want to make sure you all know that they do a great program every year to bring resources to our young people. As well as see Elder Damon Mack with us. Thank you, Damon, Elder Mack, for being with us. So, Commissioner Kelly, Sergeant Carpenter, Commissioner Fatigate, come on guys, come on up. You guys are tasked with keeping us safe. I think it's only right that you speak on some of the creative things that you're doing and have done over the past few months to try and position the city to be more connected and more coordinated. And then when the congressmen get here, we'll talk about the next date when the White House is going to come and join us.
Thank you, Mayor. I will share with everyone here tonight, on a personal level, I've lost 2 of my family members as victims of murder. One in Yonkers, one in White Plains. And murder is an inherently evil act. It not only robs the life of a victim, but it robs a family of its future. And I think it's appropriate to say, since we are in a church of God, that the spiritual approach is at all times, under all circumstances, to overcome evil with good. And as a very practical matter in the police department, what we're doing are several issues. For the most recent incident of last week, at the direction of the mayor, we have reassigned a number of our resources. We are working collaboratively with the FBI Violent Crime Task Force. We're working with our partners in the Westchester County District Attorney's Office, and we are putting on a full court press on this particular investigation. And for a larger view of what we're doing on our community, we are revisiting how we police our community as a whole. One of the mistakes that police departments often make, and I do say it is a mistake, is that they come up with a plan, they come up with a strategy, and they try to impose it on their community. And what we're doing something here is counterintuitive to all of that, and what we're trying to do is to empower our community and have our community direct us. We are public servants, and we are putting our ears to the ground to listen to our community. We are going to redeploy our resources and make our engagement in the community an entire comprehensive effort of the entire police department. And Sergeant Carpenter, Detective Clark, and Deputy Commissioner Fatigate are here with me now. And if you want to just speak briefly about some of the things that you've been doing, Sergeant.
Sure. In 2014, President Obama convened a task force to investigate relationships between the community and the police. And in October of 2015, the report was issued. And the bottom line is that he came up with 59 solutions and that were adopted by different municipalities throughout the country. We decided to take on this same initiative. It's called 21st Century Policing. And we decided to adopt the same model. However, we have to tweak it and make it the Mount Vernon model. Part of this initiative called for listening summits, for us to go out into the community and speak to members of the community and find out from them. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys can't hear me? Thank you. Just let me know. But part of this initiative called for us to go out into the community and speak to stakeholders in the community. We went to every school, with exception of 2 we didn't make it to so far, religious organizations, the business organizations, and like the commissioner said, not to tell them what we can do for them, wanted to listen to what the needs are and to get from them how we can help and we can collaborate to better serve the community. And so this is the stage that we are now. Actually, today was the first day that we executed it with the day tour, and we had our officers go back into the schools and with assignments to speak to the principals and to develop relationships. One of the things that we have to do, and we have to understand something, we can have as many services, resources, but without relationships, it's all for naught. It's really, really important that we really, really meet the kids where they are. We're doing our best effort on this side of using this policing model, but there's so much more to do. And something I was reminded of at the vigil today, as I stood there amongst these young people, it was in 2008 when I worked as a detective in the youth unit. And we had a number of shootings in our community. And we were trying to convene sit-downs and find all types of solutions to stop the violence. And when I stood there amongst those young people today, I realized something. There's a serious breakdown in communication. They don't know us. We don't know them. They don't trust us. And we're scared of them. And we have got to do something about that. We have got to find a way. We got to find a way to meet them where they are. One of the things I used to hate as a teenager is for people to tell me, you need to do this and you need to do that. But they need, just like we did then, they need us to show them. They need us to show them. But in order to show them, you have to be close enough to them. You have to have a relationship with them. So we are doing our part, but there's so much more work to do. And I just hope by the time this is all over, we all can agree that there's something for us to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can tell you that we've been here before, and that's part of the reason why we wanted to design our presentation tonight as a steady flow, or steady drumbeat of information that's relevant, that's applicable, that's measurable, achievable, reachable, and timely. I mean, that's basically the simplicity of our approach. We're talking about pools and parks. We're talking about bologna sandwiches to make sure our kids can eat. We're talking about jobs. We're talking about opportunities to collaborate and get connected. And these are all things that we are making sure we're integrating our approach across the board, working with the faith-based community, working with our nonprofit stakeholders, working with, untraditional allies to make sure that there's a strong connection. So there are some forms that you can fill out to get connected. I know you signed in with Malcolm Clark, who's in my office, but there are other elements that are going on, and we're going to announce the date when Congressman Engel gets here, when the White House is coming. But I just want to stop and pause and recognize one more person, and then invite two other people to speak before we wrap it up, because I know not wrap it up, excuse me, here's some feedback, some questions from the community. But I do want to point out that Delia Farquharson was on the phone with us earlier today when we were speaking to the White House. So Delia, I just want to say thank you for that, for joining us. And she prompted us to make sure that we didn't miss the opportunity to accept the My Brother's Keeper Pledge. So the City of Mount Vernon will be accepting it, and we'll talk more about that shortly. I do want to recognize Carrie Mobley, who's here on behalf of County Executive Carrie Mobley Johnson, from the County Executive Rob Acevedo's office. And I wanted to ask if the Nolan family, if you guys would like to say anything, and also Brother Muhammad, if you'd like to say anything before we open it up to questions.
Thank you for having us here tonight. I think this is great. I was one of those parents who would watch the news and think to myself, how does that mom do it? And then 6 months ago, I got that call, and my life has been a living hell. My son Michael was in Burger King with his friends. He's going to put a hamburger in his mouth, car pulled up, 6 shots fired. First one hit him in his ear, next one hit him in his arm, and the third one hit him in his leg. For the next 3 weeks, I lived at Jacobi Hospital. I watched my son die, and it broke my heart. I watched my husband, I watched my other sons, I watched all of his friends, and he had so many, how it tore them apart. And I waited every day for that phone to ring to say, we got them. And they called me, and they told me we got them, and I went to court. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna get guys that are gonna come out, and they're gonna be 6'8", and they're gonna be 250 pounds, because that's what my son was. It wasn't. The shooter was 17, he weighed less than me, and terrorized his neighborhood. People in his neighborhood feared him. The driver, shorter than me, 22, has 2 kids. You know, the next guy. I hear them telling me how this one's going for their GED, and they worked, and they did this, and they did that. Well, you know what? My son Michael graduated from Saunders Tech High School, went to college for 4 years, busted his butt, and got drafted by the Oakland A's. Worked a job, had millions of friends, families, the same thing they had. But you know what? They didn't care, because they took that gun, pointed it out the window, and killed my kid. It has to stop. They can't just pick up a gun and say, because I don't like the way you look, or you looked at me the wrong way, or you know what? I just feel like shooting you. It's ridiculous. How many more young people are going to lose their lives because other people don't have respect for them? Listen, I hear, you know, they come from a single parent. No, that's a lie, because you know what? I have 2 friends, both single parents, raised their kids. And let me tell you something, those boys went on to go to college, are engaged, having kids of their own. They didn't do that. We all raise our kids to do the right thing. And unfortunately, sometimes when they get out in the street, they let the streets take them. Yes, as parents, it's up to us to grab them, but you know what? As a community, this is great. I mean, we need to all step up, not just Mount Vernon, Yonkers. We all need to come together and tell them enough is enough. You're not gonna keep taking our kids. It can't happen no more. I look at these 2 young girls here, and my heart breaks for them. Another kid from Lincoln High School in Yonkers was at a ball field Saturday night. You know what? Regardless of what time of the morning it was, did he deserve to die? But he's dead. That mom has to face that. How many more kids have to lose their lives before it's gonna stop? This is all well and good, and it's so great for all the things, the jobs and all of this. But the bottom line is, how many kids are gonna take advantage of it? How many of them? How many of them are gonna look and say, well, you know what, that guy on the corner's been selling drugs and doing this for over 30 years, and look at him, he's got a brand new car, he's got this, I'm gonna go with him. We need to grab them, and grab them tight, hold on to them, and do whatever we have to do to keep them from going to violence. It's not worth it. My family's destroyed. My heart's broken. I'll never see my son again. And my anger is, okay, they're gonna go to jail, but those moms will get that card on Mother's Day. I ain't gonna get that. I go to a cemetery, and that's where I see my son. For what? It needs to stop. Reach out to your local police department, because you know what? I give you guys a lot of credit. Every day being out there, Snugs, I know the guys from Yonkers, you guys are out there, you're doing your best, but we all need to. It's not just them, it's a community thing. And I wish that we could get something like this going in Yonkers, and we could all stand together and fight. I wish you all the luck in the world. Thank you.
Greetings of peace to everyone. Assalamu alaikum. That means peace be unto you. First, I want to thank the mayor for calling me to respond. And I thank you for coming to the community with a plan of action first. The government response. I want to talk about the community response, because, you know, for some people in government, you know, serving people is a calling and they get a check for it. But I'm talking about the brothers and sisters from the community. What is our response? Because the government has limited resources to do what they do. We're talking about creating 200 jobs. There are thousands of unemployed youth. So even if they had 800 jobs, there would still be many youth who are not employed. Are y'all with me? There can be many programs, but what we have to do is we have to be sophisticated enough to do the groundwork to understand where the beefs are in the community. If you take this recent shooting, for instance, the alleged shooters, because the word is on the street who did it, the two sides of town have been beefing for the last 5 to 6 years. No one knew that it would end up like this. So we need to start to think about having conflict resolution centers, because our young people lack the sophistication, the emotional and the spiritual sophistication to talk about their beefs one to another. They need tried and trusted members of the community that can sit down and say, Pookie, get down here. Ray, get down here. We're going to squash this beef right now. And talk real talk, even if it's to 2, 3 in the morning, and make your word bond and squash that beef so that we can move on as a community. And so we need to enlist those who have the heart, the will, and the skill. And I want to ask, and I'm loving it, Brother Stan, I see you, Sister Aku, Sister Shauna. We need to have a conflict resolution center. We need to get one of those spots that's doing nothing, a storefront, where it's people can come to, and if you recognize, brother, we heard something is about to go down. And then also I wanted to say this, you need to nurture your relationships that you have with young people. I'm talking about young people who can easily turn, because when I first met Jovel, he was in the 7th grade and he was not fully developed. And when I see young people, it's easy for me to approach them because I work in the school system. So when they see me coming, they don't see me as a threat, because I show these young brothers love from day one. Even when we do things with the Youth Bureau, 4, 5, 6, 7, they could be in next 15 years tomorrow's thug. So when you establish the relationship, you nurture the relationship at a young age, no matter where they are, you can look past their fault and see right into their needs. So everyone, if you have a young person in your life, cherish that relationship, because you never know what that relationship is going to be 4, 5, 6, 7 years after. So I commit myself to City of Mount Vernon to do what I can to help our community, but we have to have conflict resolution centers to help young people work out what their culture tells them not to. See, people do what is natural until they learn what is normal. And expressing your beefs with weapons is the new normal. And so we need a cultural change. Big shout to Reverend Richardson. Thank you.
Now you see why I called him, when I was called to the scene, because, look, I was in middle school when I was, nurtured by our brother Muhammad and looked at the positive example of him and his family. And I can tell you that I'll tell you more about it tomorrow when we swear in his wife as judge in Mount Vernon. So, I want to just, introduce our Congress member before we start taking questions. But I want to just point out that last week I was invited to the World Economic Forum in San Diego. And I was one of 8 mayors that were invited in the nation. I was one of 60 global invites, 60 people that showed up for this meeting. And United States Transportation Secretary Anthony Fox, former mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, was there. I had some time with him and his top staff. And he said, Congressman Engel told me to tell you that I am to come to Mount Vernon and meet with you and to make sure that we get some access to this grant money and hopefully discretionary dollars, not just by the Transportation Department, but also by the President. So I just want to make sure you knew I flew 2,000 miles to hear about Congressman Engel telling the United States Secretary of Transportation that he has to give us money. Now, why is that important? Because money for a city like ours, with streets and sewers that are broken and busted, we need it. And to avoid having to dig into our pocket for property tax dollars or any other, resource that we can find, it's important that our voice is heard at the highest level. So I just want to say thank you to Congressman Engel for making sure that Mount Vernon is heard all the way 2,000 miles away in San Diego at the World Economic Forum, but also making sure that they are thinking about how to invest in our city before the president leaves office. So I just want to say thanks and invite you to provide some remarks.
Well, thanks very much, Richard. San Diego's a pretty great place, so if you're going to have a forum, that's a good place to have a forum. I think the weather's a little better than we're experiencing here in New York. Good evening, everybody. I'm really delighted to be here to see all of you. Delighted, of course, because it's really my honor to represent Mount Vernon in the United States Congress as I have for over 20 years. But it's wonderful because to see people on a community level really coming out on a miserable weather night because it's a community who cares. And so it's my honor and my pleasure to represent this community with our great new, young, dynamic mayor, Richard, whom I've known for many, many years when he was working for the governor, when he was doing his other endeavors. You knew he was an up-and-comer. He was somebody who has great talent, smart, sensitivity, hard work, and drive, and I'm very happy to be your partner here in Mount Vernon. And as I said before, we're going to work together to keep those federal dollars flowing to Mount Vernon. So and my Westchester District office is right here in Mount Vernon at 6 Gramerton Avenue, not far from here, walking distance from here. So we're open 5 days a week, all day long, morning 9 to 5. If you have a personal problem or a community concern, no problem's too big or small. We don't ask what party you belong to. We don't ask anything. If you need help, we're there to help you. And that's what I have more of my staff in New York than I do in Washington, because I really believe that an elected official needs to be responsive to the community that he or she represents. And that's what I try to do. So please avail yourself. Now the gun scourge, what can I tell you? You look at Washington, you look at the climate in Washington. The National Rifle Association has bought and paid for too many of my colleagues in Congress. I'm very happy they have a report card, and I'm very happy that the National Rifle Association rated me F-. So I wear that as a badge of honor, believe me. It's F- because I believe in sensible gun control, and I believe the fact that guns are the scourge of this country. And until we gather up the courage to do something, we're always going to have this problem. And again, I'm for the Second Amendment. I think legitimate people can have legitimate guns. But this proliferation of guns where people have to have 1,000 guns, where it's brought into communities that don't want them, where it's sold for a pittance, and where it has too much violence surrounding it, is something that we really should not sit still with. And we've got to tell the National Rifle Association and those people who support them that we are not going to go away. We're going to keep fighting till we have sensible gun control legislation. I want to know that everybody that gets a gun has a background check. I want to know that everybody who gets a gun is mentally stable. These are just common sense things that anybody would think about. You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar. These are common sense things that we need to talk about. We need to get armor-piercing bullets away, or ban them so they can't pierce police armor or anything else. Again, checks to make sure that anybody who's buying a gun has a need for it and is not a dangerous person or a mentally unstable person. And we know here in Mount Vernon and in other places, in other inner cities all throughout the country, it's the kids in the inner cities, it's the people in the inner cities that really suffer the most in gang violence, in drug violence, because they go hand in hand, and we really have to do it. That's why I support the money coming, the initiatives. That's why there's a bill out for $1.3 billion to be spread out to cities and communities like Mount Vernon, which I'm a co-sponsor of and which I'm pushing. Again, these are things that are common sense. If you don't have safety, you don't have anything. And if you don't have jobs, you don't have safety. If you don't give these young men an opportunity to have a future, then they're going to start going with the people that they think are cool or whatever reason, or can provide them with whatever they need now, and that's what's going to happen. I grew up in a city housing project in the Bronx. You might not know it to look at me now, but I grew up in a city housing project. And we had, from a family that didn't have much money at all. And I remember in those years there was an urban core program. The mayor in those days, I'm going to date myself now, was Mayor Lindsay. And I remember he had an urban core program. I qualified for it because my family didn't have much money. And I remember that whole summer they put me to work, and I worked as a counselor at a day camp in the local YWCA. And he gave me pocket money, it kept me off the streets, and it let me know that I was a person who was worth something, that I could contribute and I could make some money on the side, and that's what we want for the kids today. And that isn't really asking too much. And with all the talk and all the nonsense and all the garbage with government and presidential elections and vote for me and don't vote for him and whatever, the bottom line is we need to have straight, safe streets, and we need to have jobs for our kids. That's the bottom line. Because when there is no future, and people think there's no future for these young men, they're going to turn to violence, or people they think are cool who's going to bring them violence, and we have to do everything we can to stop it. So I know the time is late, and I know the mayor was strolling a little bit to keep me here. The only thing he didn't do was a singing and dance routine, but I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate all of you coming out. I also represent Yonkers as well, and we have problems in a lot of urban areas, parts of New Rochelle and the Bronx as well. So please be my partner. We'll continue to work together. We'll continue to get money flowing. We'll continue to make sure that our streets are safer. And thank you for coming out tonight on a miserable weather night. Thanks to Reverend Richardson and Grace Baptist Church as always. And please, if there's anything I can speak with you about, if you'd like to make an appointment to see me, I'm available. Just call my office, 6 Gramerton Avenue, and we'll be happy to see you. And thanks for coming out again tonight, and God bless.
Now, I know the congressman is busy, and if you have time to stick around, please do. But I just want to point out that, again, we were on the phone earlier with the White House, and they did commit to come to Mount Vernon and be a part of this next discussion to talk about some of the resources that they're looking to implement with us. And I just want to thank you again for opening those doors and helping us have those conversations, because we need them. And everybody's here tonight, and I hope each of you have heard something that speaks to your passion and your interest in something that you feel you can put your energy and effort behind. So, if there's a question from the audience or a recommendation that you think we should be looking at, I'd love to receive some of that feedback, some of those new ideas, because our goal is to make sure that we engage Mount Vernon and we provide a level playing field and a platform of options that people can pick from, be it those that are youth of promise, those that are scholars, those that just need a little bit of a nudge. And I look forward to, I see one hand right now, I see 2 hands, it's 3, 4, all right, so 5. So I'm going to start with ladies first. Yeah, ladies first. Chivalry is not dead. I think perhaps
Hi,
if you speak loud, and because there's only one microphone, so speak loud if you don't mind.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanisha.
And I'll repeat the question, by the way. I will repeat the question. So I'm just going to speak loud, and I'll repeat the question so everybody can hear.
It's not a question.
Okay, sorry. Good. Statement.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanisha. The Easter, the homicide, the Easter homicide you guys were speaking about, I was there throughout it all. I watched the young men and I watched them all gather around and cry. But what happened, which I couldn't believe, Pastor Wilson, she came by. Brother Muhammad, he was there. Mayor, he was there. And we all gathered and prayed together. And I thought about it, because I've never been in something so dramatic. And I'm like, they're all here supporting us and praying together. And I thought it would be a one day and that would be it. Guess what? Someone else came the next day. We all prayed together. And we continued. Snug came and prayed. Just today we had a rally and we all stood in front of the memorial spot and we prayed together. I saw the support of Mount Vernon come before me. And I never would imagine it to be that way. And what I'm asking for is to continue to come and support each other. Because the kids did not retaliate, because you guys were there to support them. And just praying with them and being there with them. Because every day I come in there with a group of guys and I'm thinking, what's next? Are they going to go back? Are they going to go back? Even after this happened, that Sunday, Monday, one of the boys came back. Tried again to shoot. And I didn't understand what was going on. But watching everybody support these boys is giving them the courage to just stand there and stand back and allow the city to take care of this. Dr. Wilson invited them to her church, and I've never seen a bunch of boys get together and stand in front of her, and she prayed on them. I just want to continue for that support to continue. I don't want it to stop because maybe it died down. I just want us all to support each other and keep pushing to stop the violence. And not until you're in front of it and you realize that this is really what's happening, you kind of ignore it. Because that's what I've been doing. I had so many signs, but I ignored it because it's not in front of me. It didn't hit me directly. But when it comes close to home, then you wake up. And I don't want everybody to have to wake up when it's close to home. I want us to start waking up now and try our best to come as a community and fight against this violence.
We're not going to go anywhere. So we're going to stand with you. We're going to stand for. I see another young lady.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kate. I'm a resident here in Mount Vernon. And this is amazing. This is wonderful. I used to do radio here in New York for a lot of years. And this is wonderful to see all of you here right now. But my concern is, and we're talking about the teens, and we're talking about our young men or women, but I have a 7-year-old who goes to an elementary school, and in her first couple of months in the public school system was called a B word, was beaten up by 2 boys in the cafeteria. And the mother of the child refused to take responsibility, refused to allow that 2nd grader to take responsibility for his actions. Now, for me, I have done events here. I've done a women's conference here, and I remember handing out those tickets. I gave free tickets to everyone, and I remember women, young women, asking me, but what's that? What is a women's conference? What is this? I've done, a few months ago, together with the Recreation Department, did an anti-violence for young women to teach them self-defense, and the community didn't support. I called, I got in touch with some of the churches here, I got in touch with some of the organization, I emailed, but no one responded to me. Everyone wants to do their own little thing over here to say, I did this and I did that, but no one wants to come together as one to address the problem of our children. And it doesn't start as a teenager, it starts when they're young. And we have to now teach our parents to take responsibility. We need to engage our parents. They're not coming to the school. They're not talking to their young ones. They're not disciplining these kids. Instead, what they're doing, they're coming to the schools and they're posturing in front of the teachers and they're making these little ones think that this is okay, and it's not. And as a parent, this was my child's first time in the public school system, and I was so hurt. I think I was hurt more than she was. And as a woman, and I grew up here. I'm not from this country, but I grew up here. I spent many years, I left and came back. And since I came back, I have tried to do, and you know, a few of you in here know me and know what I've tried to do. I've tried to partner with everyone, but at the same time, our problem in Mount Vernon is that we all want to do separate things, and we don't want to come together because everyone wants the credit for what is done, and that's not an issue. It shouldn't be an issue. The issue should be what we can do for our young people, not just when they're teenagers and they're now out there on the streets, but when they're young and they start using the B word, and you as a parent look at them and think that's funny and that's cute, and it's not. My 7-year-old goes to church, and I'm trying to raise her the right way. I have a 25-year-old that I raised in Brooklyn, and in Flatbush, Brooklyn, never been in trouble, graduated from college, and is doing well. And my thing is that as Mount Vernonites, I think we need to do better, and I think we have too many churches here for us to be in this situation. There is too many of us as leaders in this community for us to be sitting here tonight and trying to find a resolution. And I think, you know, we need to start there. We need to start there. And this is great, and thank you, Mayor, for doing this. But I think as we sit here now, I think we have to be honest with each other and say that we, as different organizations, are not doing what we're supposed to do for these kids. Thank you.
So, you know, like we've had many of these forums before, and what we're all saying is very legitimate. The problems exist. And we're here tonight, I really, really want us to take out some opportunities to look at what type of solutions we can work towards together, how we can build together. Because we can talk about the problems until we're all exhausted. But if we don't start putting in place solutions, it's gonna be a challenge. I see you back there. So we know there's prevention, we know there's intervention, and then there's some people we have to restore and reconnect them to our communities. So we have to have something for everyone, and we focused on teens tonight because there are a lot of programs that are available for children up until the age of 12. And at 12 years old is when we really, really start to lose them in a very steep way. And so we're not ignoring the children because we really, really focus on a lot of programs for kids under the age of 12 often. But it's once that 12 to 25 age, also, once we lose them, then they're going to also negatively impact the kids who are behind them. So we're not ignoring the younger kids, but we're taking an intentional look tonight on how we can connect with our teens, because our teens do have a big impact, more than we do as adults, on the younger kids. Those younger kids are looking at how the teens move, and if we can work on getting the teens to move in a different way, we can come back. So, Damien?
But yeah, and today we actually were talking about establishing a community-wide calendar. So to your point, in terms of working in collaboration, while we do that, we actually do that well in some areas, but there's a huge gap and opportunity for us to improve as a community. And one of the initiatives that the mayor has charged us to do is to put together a calendar which would include not just government resources, but also nonprofit, faith-based, and other organizations that would speak to that type of need. So for instance, you know, you've identified issue with parents and their lack of awareness or perhaps lack of involvement. Perhaps we could look at the resources that we have so we can streamline and identify a toolkit, for instance, for parents. And so tonight we want to get your feedback so that we can go back and create a solution, as Sean said, but something that's tangible, as opposed to just continuing to talk about it. Community calendars we've talked about for a long time. And then there's also the issue of disseminating the information. But at this point, I think Malcolm might be starting a listserv so that we can get the community activities in one place.
You know, one of the ways that we find out what movies are playing and where they're playing, we look it up. We find out where we want to go to different restaurants because we look it up. And if we want activities for our kids, we have to look it up. I mean, every flyer is not going to be on your doorstep. It's just not. Some of them in your kids' book bags. So we gotta open the book bags and we gotta look at it. Because there are activities. Go to the community's website. If we can go to Facebook and Instagram and post pictures, we can go to the Recreation and the Youth Bureau webpage, as well as their Facebook page, and find out what activities are happening. We have to stop making the excuse that we didn't know. Sometimes we don't know because we don't want to know. And I'm not trying to speak harshly, but I'm just talking the reality. We know what we want to know. And we choose to ignore sometimes what's in our face until we're hit by a tragedy, and then we wake up and we become alive and active and engaged. So, once again, I don't want to talk about just the problems, but also really focus on how we can find solutions. As we were on the phone with the White House today, when I was there about a month ago, they talked about this number of days to the weekend. And so President Obama's staff is counting down the days to December 31st. So it's 290 days left in office for him. And he's really, really serious and really focused on making sure that programs like My Brother's Keeper and things that support that foundation happen. And so we have 290 days of him being left in office and his legacy to really connect and make things happen. I don't know who the next president is going to be. I don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. We didn't think a lot of this was going to be happening that's happening. But I do know that we have 290 days left in this year while he's in office to connect to some of the work that he's trying to do, which really helps us to strengthen the foundations of our community. And so I want us to make sure that we're using each of those days in the most strategic, intentional way that we can to make a change here. So I see your hand over there, and then I see a hand in the back.
Hi, good evening. I'm Nesta Felix. One of the solutions I think is important is that sometimes I think we become desensitized towards what we can do even though we sit together. I think that one of the officers said relationship, and often we walk in the street and we see young people and we know that there's a forum going on tonight, but we'll pass them and we won't say, why don't you come to the forum with me? And I think if there's 50 people in a room, we become liaisons to the community, and I think we take it for granted because we know the calendar. We sit at the Youth Bureau Alliance meetings, we sit at the recreation meetings, and we all the same faces that continue to come to the meetings. But yet the problems exist. So I think that we forget to be that voice. To just say to 5 children when you're coming, come with me to this event, or 5 children there's mentoring, or 5 children there's a sports program. And I think that we're very, very sensitive about it. We forget that our voices carry on so much. So it's a lot being done. It's just not being shared. And again, I got here because even though I get so much information during the week, Brenda Crump, I think, tags me all the time with events, and Brother Muhammad will send me a text message, and Zaku will say, are you coming? And so we're talking to each other, and we're forgetting to tell the children, come with me. And if I don't bring them with me, it's probably because I came from the city, but I try to load my truck when I come to events, and I think that if we do that better, we will really start to really create a dent in what's happening in the community.
So just a quick commercial break, and Sergeant Mitchell, I see your hand. So our Ms. Farquharson, who's one of the social workers in our community, is sharing information with us about Wellness Week. And when we're talking about wellness, we're not just talking about physical wellness, but we have more people dying from chronic diseases in our community than we do from homicide. So we can't sleep on the chronic diseases. 80% of the deaths that happen are due to preventable chronic illnesses. So we're talking about mental, intellectual, social, spiritual, environmental, physical, occupational, and financial wellness. And so May 1st through 7th is the Emotional Wellness Week of Mount Vernon, and there'll be different types of forums and workshops and events that happen throughout that week to deal with each of those dimensions of wellness. And so we want to make sure that you're tapped into that. Mary, do you want to take this back over? Okay, so I had a hand. Yes. Sergeant Mitchell.
Can I get a mic?
Huh?
Oh, I gotta go down. Engine on the job.
Well, let me just tell you a little bit about what I've done in the community. And I've been an SRO. I've been a youth detective, homicide detective, intelligence, and narcotics sergeant. and I'm pretty much going to keep it real. One of the things that we don't look at is educating our youth about the laws. You know, it's easy to sit here and say, well, the kids are doing this, but if they don't know, then how are they supposed to act properly? You know, I taught a law enforcement course for 3 years. 83.2% of my kids stayed out of trouble. 83.2% that had previous contact with law enforcement. But that's the beginning of it. Another thing is what we look at, what our children see. And one of the things that disappoints me is in the police leadership. They can't identify with black males, Hispanic males in terms of leadership. We have to look at this city is the only city in the state of New York where the majority of the population is either Hispanic or African American. And we are not taking that into account. There are many factors that play into why our children act out. I've identified with a lot of young people. There's some young people in this room that I dealt with as young people back then. And they know, I'm gonna keep it real. I make no excuses, and I'm not here to try and make anybody feel good or massage anybody's egos. And I don't need anything, I don't need anybody to try and offer me anything. I am here to tell the truth. Okay? Education, and education our kids about the law in the state of New York is more important than worrying about the next basketball game or the video game. But we don't take the time for that. We're quick to accuse either the parent or the child, they don't know how to act, on all of these. We make excuses for that. But one of the things that we have neglected is to teach them how to act, what to do. You talk about programs, how do I start a program? A lot of adults don't know that. So we need to begin the process of teaching, not only for the young people, but for the adults. How do I engage with a young person? We cannot go back here and talk about, well, they didn't listen to me. Did you teach this adult how to work with young people? Because you got to go down to their level. You got to go down. You can't expect them to come up. You got to go down there and get down with them and then bring them up. That is the only way it's going to happen. I get so frustrated when I hear the political mumbo jumbo in leadership. You want to talk about the disconnect? We have people in this community that can serve in every position in this city. And we fail to sit down and have that conversation, that dialogue. And I'm going to keep it real. Because I've gone nowhere. Everybody has my number. Everybody knows where I live. So I haven't heard from anybody that say, hey, Mitch, you want to do this? Yo, do you have any idea on this? I don't want nothing. I'm good. But I do want to see my city look better. My county look better. My state look better. Part of the problem is that we have leadership. You have law enforcement, which has issues with black males. Let's make no qualms about it. But we don't ask the black law enforcement organizations that are both black and know the law how to approach the situation. So I sit back here and I wonder really how seriously do you really want to solve these problems? Because it's apparently ignored all the time. And I brought this is not the first time I brought this up. I've talked about law enforcement, I've talked about vocational programs, because not every kid is going to go to college. This goes across all borders. This is in every community. These are things that we can do, but we fail to do for whatever political expediency there is. Now, none of this stuff is new. And I'm just repeating what I've repeated year after year after year. There's students in here that I dealt with that I taught in my law enforcement class. All right? Yes, you can. And I know I'm not doing it. You can ask me.
I'm going to ask you a question. So, Mitch, with all this passion, Sergeant Mitchell, with all this passion, with all this expertise, over 20, 25 years of expertise and commitment in the community, and you just said you don't want anything, but you want to see programs in place. Will you work with the guardians, with other brothers who are retired, active, men in the community who are willing to volunteer and step up and maybe oversee a mentoring or or a community education program? Are you saying tonight that you're ready to commit to doing that?
I'm willing to work with everybody, and I've done that thus far. There is not one time that I haven't sat back and said that I will not work with people. The problem is we begin the process, but we never finish the process. Let me finish. we find things to talk about. I'm about action. I will sit there and talk to you all day. But I have not seen the action necessary for me to engage. We talk. I've been to city council. I've met with Commissioner Kelly. I've done a number of things. I'm about action. And I'm not going to sit here and give you dialogue. That's not one of my fortes. You may believe different, but trust me. My forte is about doing something. And I've done things in my own way. I have my own nonprofit. You know, I go out and I work with kids.
So Mitch is going to get about 5 guys. He's going to get, because we only have about 10 minutes and I need Commissioner. Hold on, let me. Oh.
My deepest condolences to the Nolan family and to the Stewart family. You know, I'm very sorry. Thank you.
So before Mitch leaves, can we get 5 men and 5 women to get together with him, maybe to come together and move it to action so that we're not talking about it, but we move it to the next level of action. Please stay and we'll get you a piece of paper, Mitch, so that you can write down some names and take it to the next level.
So what we want to do is to make sure that we do offer to you what we have available for you to collaborate with the Youth Bureau and with the Recreation Department. Now we're always looking for opportunities to collaborate with other nonprofits, other community organizations to be able to provide those types of services, whether they are services that intertwine mentoring and athletic activities. And so we're encouraging you to come to our offices or even shoot us an email to let us know what idea you have. I don't think there's anyone out there that can say that Executive Director Damia Harris Madden or myself are unavailable and have not met with anybody in the community. So I'm going to tell you what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for adults to come and volunteer and be a part of our activities that we're planning for the summer, because we don't have all of the resources in order to be able to pay everybody to do so. But there are folks out there that have skills. They have athletic skills, they have lifestyle skills, they have skills in teaching soft skills to our young people, and we're looking for those kinds of opportunities. So we want to make sure that you take advantage of that.
So from the Youth Bureau standpoint, we have a long list of asks. I'll try to give you the most salient ones. Congressman Engel mentioned the importance of youth employment. I spoke to that earlier today. We partner with about 81 different businesses, nonprofits, for-profits, to ensure placement. If you are a faith-based community hub and you have camps that you need young people to work within and you'd like to host as a youth employment site, please let us know. We also host Adopt a Block campaigns, which thankfully the Congressman has afforded us funding through our Communities That Cares Coalition, where we go into neighborhoods, we clean up the neighborhood, collect bottles of alcohol bottles, we pick up all the trash, we provide health fairs, which many of you have partnered with us on, but we do need to host in as many parks as possible, and the mayor has been very clear with us that he wants to expand services within the parks, and so we would like to partner with you in that regard. And I keep smiling at the bridges because they are so integral in our community in terms of the parent communication piece, but the Youth Bureau also looks for organizations that we can work with that can engage partners. So, Sean mentioned that we can't bring everything to your doorstep, but we have discussed expanding resources where we are going to go door to door with the police at a certain point to disseminate information, and we will need volunteers for that. And so the list could go on, but at this point right now, we want to help to build the calendar, but also get volunteers in place so that they can adopt some of the activities that we're providing.
I just wanted to say one quick thing. In part of our discussion with the White House and then following up with the mayor this afternoon, we spoke about community cohesion. It's easy for us to shoot and kill and rob and steal from each other because we don't know each other. We don't stop and move to get to know one another. And so one of the things that we're looking to put together throughout the summer is to work with different neighborhood associations, different community groups, and churches to go to the old-fashioned block parties, where you bring out some music, where you have a little play area for the kids, where the adults can come together and talk to one another, and that the whole neighborhood can pitch in, cook, serve food. Because if you get to know your neighbor, the only time we get to see each other is when we're shoveling snow. Other than that, we're on our cell, running to our car, running back in from our car into the house, rushing. And when you don't know your neighbors, it's easy to disrespect them. It's easy to not be able to trust them. But if we do things like community gardens, like block parties, I know that might sound really simple, but it helps you to get to know those people who are living around you, respect them, and be able to work with them. And so I know the mayor wants to wrap this up, and I believe Sergeant Carpenter had something to say, and we might have one more question. Mayor, if we can take this one more.
I just wanted to emphasize the wellness. According to the Center for Disease Control, last year alone, there were 30,000 incidents of gun violence. Half of those were as a result of suicides, and the majority of those were teenagers. Our kids are walking around angry, full of hopelessness and despair. And one of the things that's critical and our job to do is to pull them out of being stuck in that hopelessness and that despair. But it's hard to do that when we are full of hopelessness, anger, and despair. We teach our kids what to do, or when they find themselves in a situation, a conflict, we teach them how to act, how to stay stuck in there and constantly meditating on the negative and the negative. We teach them. We attack each other on Facebook and things, and these are the very things that have led to some of the deaths and the violence, and we're teaching them. And then we stand back and say, you know what? You need to do X, Y, and Z. When you talk to young people, one of the biggest issues they have with adults is hypocrisy. They do not trust us. And that, whether you're a parent, whether you are a preacher, whether you are a teacher, whether you are a neighbor, they talk about it all the time. If you listen to their music, if you sit and just talk to them, they talk about the hypocrisy. One of the things I used to love all those years back working in the youth unit is getting that child in there. On the street, they acting ugly, mother F you, mother F her, mother F the world, and then you get them in there and you look them in the face and say, what is wrong with you? And you get them to the point where they start, it's just you and them, and they start pouring it out. And one thing we don't understand is that we assume that these kids come from the same background and dynamics that we come from. So we try to treat them and respond to them the way we used to. Because we don't take the time to talk to them to find out what their issues are. We don't take the time. We don't hang in there long enough through the ugliness and the muck and the mire to get to the core of that place, so they even can realize that they're not alone. I'm simply saying this. If we don't check ourselves, we're going to wreck ourselves and them. So we need to just stop and be about it and stop talking.
Thank you. And, that energy and passion, is a big component of our leadership. And I know Delia, now we had a few more comments, but I know we are running down on time and the church must, close, but I'll allow Delia, since she kind of prompted.
I just want to say one thing.
Go for it, Delia.
It's really critical that we not ask what's wrong with our children, but rather we ask what's happened to our children. Because it's what's happened to our children that we're seeing manifested. The abuse, the neglect, the hurt that has happened to our children. So let us not see our children as damaged, but let us understand that they have been pained, they have been wronged, they have been hurt. And it is our responsibility as a community to respond to that pain with compassion, to respond to that pain with love. And that is why we have a Wellness Week. Because as a social worker and a mother, because I have lived experiences with mental health, and I know that this is the pain that afflicts this community, and trauma is real. So let us not look at our children as damaged, but let us look at them and wonder what we can do to help them. It's really important, not what's wrong with them, but what's happened to them.
Now receive that, we all receive a cheerleader. Last one.
How's everybody doing? My name is Akil. Everybody in this town knows me as Noel Warren. I'm straight from Mount Vernon, New York. The typical kid who grew up with certain stimuluses and environmental issues, and I dropped out of school, got back, went to college, played pro football. I've been traveling around, and for the last 8 years, I've been dedicated to just seeing like the specific problems that not only exist in Mount Vernon, but like in Chicago and Pittsburgh and all these different dynamics. I started to understand it was a stimulus, like a frequency issue. And the disconnection that happens between the young adults and the older adults is no culture. I know when I was younger, and when you don't understand the culture of a woman, you don't know how to treat one. We don't understand the culture of a man in general, regardless of whatever race they are, you're not going to know how to treat one. So all it is having empathy. And empathy is being able to put your feet in someone else's shoes and being able to relate to what they're going through. So what I've been doing is dedicating my life to doing live feeds. I do poetry. I do things like group economics to help bring everybody together, like kind of get back to the essence of like the barter system. So I coach football, and even in my music, my songs are called Love's Free, and We Are Kings, and We Are Queens. Everything in the dynamic to build your frequency. I also teach health. I'm vegan. I've been vegan for like the last 6-7 years, and just that automatically changed my whole frequency because I was able to think clear. So what has happened with a lot of these little boys I speak to, because I'm one of those kids who like, even though I went to school and when I came back to, we call it the hood or whatever, I was still accepted because I never changed. So I talk to the killer and I talk to the victim before things happen. Like they come to me and they tell me, big homie, I want to change my life. They want to. But when you're in that lower realm, when your frequencies is low, you have low self-esteem, you have ego, when you're disconnected, you don't know where you come from, that's when you start having what I call oppression murders. What happens to these people out here is called depression. You have an environmental stimulus, and your thoughts become your words, and your words become your actions. So with me and this young man, he called me this morning. I was so happy because sometimes you feel like you don't get enough help because you feel like no one really hears you. So I couldn't wait to come here and speak to you guys today. So we wanted to do a concert. I also started a business called Sweet Tings, which is organic food. We cook cheesecakes and food and stuff. And everybody that's not ready to turn vegan, I teach you the importance of health. Your skin and everything that you come from, because we're all connected, we're all more alike than we are different. So, a lot of us just lack funding, and I want to take your head off. So we want to establish this, create an event. I did a poetry slam at the Dole Center. It was excellent. Everybody came in. The energy was, we had the vendors. It was just love. We didn't even need no security. It was just and we can do that, because this town is 4 square miles and we all know each other. So everything comes to a choice. We have to take advantage of the atmosphere that this young man is presenting. He can't do it on his own. So we have to do it together. So we wanted to do a concert that bring awareness, stop the violence, of course, but what you have to do, you have to attack it. You have to really attack it. So through the music, because the music and the frequency plays another big role. So that's all I really want to speak about, is just, coming up with a solution, coming together, and just attacking it. Deal with the solution. We can nitpick all day about the problems, but at the end of the day, we can get to the root of how everything should be. All right, so that's it.
How y'all doing out there tonight? My name is Kamani Osborne. I'm an artist / songwriter from Mount Vernon, New York. Born and raised here. Actually, I was born in Jamaica, but I feel like I was born and raised here. I've been living here forever. But I grew up out here, and I've seen a lot of stuff change with the my generation before me, and what scares me is the generation after me, the younger kids. And I feel like the reason why the younger kids is so, their life is in so much danger right now is because they don't really have nothing to wake up to, no programs. When I was growing up, we had, Memorial Field. I know you in the process of getting that fixed. Memorial Field, YMCA, Brush Park, not to mention Greatest Centennial Church on 8th Avenue. You know what I'm saying? That was teaching us how to conduct ourselves, you know what I'm saying, other than what my parents was doing in the house. You know what I'm saying? I had programs to go to, summer camps and whatnot. I feel like there's a lot of that lacking right now in the community, and that's why the kids is waking up, and they waking up looking for that high. You know what I'm saying? They're looking for that high, and they're going to chill with negativity all day. There's nothing positive out here for them. Nothing positive, you know what I'm saying? So, like Akil was talking about, and I think somebody else up here said it, the block party situation. I feel like the Stop the Violence concert will be something very helpful to the community, but I feel like we should do it on a regular basis, not just like how we do Also on Dirt once a year. She had mentioned that we don't know each other, and this is 4 square miles, and we only know each other when we shovel snow. We also only know each other on Also on Dirt. That's when the whole town is out here, and we see everybody, we enjoying each other's company and all that, but I feel like we need to do that more. We need to do that more, fellowship amongst each other more, get to know each other more, and give out that vibe and energy that I could rub shoulders with you without having to feel like I gotta punch you in your face or pull out a knife or a gun and shoot you and stab you. Like, you know what I'm saying? I just feel like we gotta start beating that energy in these young kids' heads that just because you know what I'm saying, you have a difference than me, that don't mean that we gotta take it there all the time. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that we should really push for the Stop the Violence concert. Me and Akil, we're gonna give out our information to anybody that wanna help us push this situation. And I feel like it should be something that we do in the summertime outside. I was thinking Brush Park in the back, make it like how they do, what's that event called? Lollapalooza or something like that. You know, have the live band out there, give it like a jazzy feel. You know, and another thing too, I feel like it should be policed. I feel like it should really be policed. A perimeter should be set up so that way it won't be no little kids coming out there, no young kids coming out there feeling like it's a Stop the Violence rally. But just because we saying it's a Stop the Violence rally, that don't mean that their intentions is gonna be stop the violence. They still need guidance. They need to see police out there so they can feel like, you know what, as much as I want to punch him in his face right now, I'm gonna just chill because the cops is here. That 1 second when they feel like ain't no cop around, the whole situation is going down the drain. So I just feel like that it should be police, perimeter set up, because I'm talking about having kids out there, my moms, my aunts, grandmothers, everybody, you know what I'm saying? So it needs to be safe. I feel like it should start like 12 o'clock, end at like 6 or 7, have festivities out there for the kids, food, all that, you know what I'm saying? All right, cool.
So, you know, and that's part of the reason why we wanted to bring everybody out tonight, to let you know that, you know, the Stop the Violent concerts are basically part of our antidote to violence, the symptom of violence, to respond to that low frequency, as you would say, by raising the volume on the positive things. So I can tell you right now, on May 30th, Memorial Day, there's a big concert at Brush Park that's going to be unveiled in a couple of weeks. Every month we're looking to do exactly what you described, but on each area of town, different blocks. So definitely sign up. I don't think you're gonna have much resistance from us to do Stop the Violence concert. It's just a matter of,
I gotta be on the ticket.
that's what I was gonna say, it's just a matter of how it gets programmed and what frequency we tune into. So look, we're gonna close this in prayer, and just know that the answer is yes. The answer is yes, we're gonna do the block parties, we're gonna do the concerts. Yes, we're gonna bring pools back to parks. Yes, we're gonna try and get bologna sandwiches. Something probably more nutritious than a bologna sandwich. All the vegans out there. but just know that the goal is to bring fun back to Mount Vernon, and hopefully these positive alternatives add up to a real positive solution for our community. DeAndre, if you can please close out in prayer. Thank you.
So there are a lot of different faith groups here. It's important in a setting of this nature, we are not offensive to different faith groups. But we do know one thing, that in every faith group, prayer changes things. We know for a fact that the God that we look to, whatever you call that God, whether you call him a her or you call him a him, God can fix things. So for a moment, let's have two prayers. Our first prayer is for persons who have experienced violence in their lives. persons that have been snuffed out before their time. And then the second prayer is to pray for not what we see being displayed today, but to pray for the years of pain, the time that that child was molested, the time that that child had to watch his mother or her mother get high in the house, that time when a kid had to go to school and, like DeAndre, be put in the dumb corner and feel like he was nothing. Let's pray for the root causes of these problems. Because down in the country where I was for the past 10 years, they tell me this: if you can get to the root of the weed, you can solve all the weeds on the farm. Let's pray. God, would you seal this city from every single corner? Seal this city from every single school. That something that happened tonight will be a seed of hope that will spring forth a great tree in our great city. God, we pray that you'll keep your hand upon all of the citizens. And God, we pray that you'll keep your hand upon our mayor, that he will lead us to the place that you called us. Dismiss us from this place, but never from your presence, and provide traveling mercies to each one that have come tonight. It's in your name we pray and we give thanks. The people who love God said amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody. We'll announce the next date when we have a confirmation, and more than likely be in early May, but just want to make sure that you please take the brochures to my right, your left, and make sure you sign up, and looking forward to doing this concert, the Stop the Violence concert, and see if we can build with it. Thank you, everybody, and God bless.
Thank you.